There is a version of you that you do not like to admit exists. A version that can be selfish, cruel, jealous, manipulative. A version that sometimes enjoys watching someone fail. A version that can imagine revenge, even if you never act on it. Most people spend their lives pretending this side does not exist. They call themselves good people, and maybe they are. But psychology suggests something uncomfortable. Being a good person does not mean you have no darkness inside you. It may simply mean you have learned how to control it. This is where the idea of the devil becomes psychologically interesting, not as a creature with horns, not as something hiding in the darkness, but as a symbol for the part of the human mind that wants power, pleasure, revenge, destruction, and freedom from consequences. And the frightening part is that devil does not always feel evil. Sometimes it feels completely reasonable. Imagine someone humiliates you in front of other people. Your first reaction may not be forgiveness. Your mind might immediately create a fantasy. You embarrass them back. You expose something about them. You make them feel exactly what they made you feel. For a few seconds, revenge can feel satisfying. That does not automatically make you a terrible person. It reveals something much more important. Human beings are not built from pure kindness. We are built from competing instincts. One part of you wants connection. Another wants status. One wants peace. Another wants dominance. One wants to forgive. Another keeps score. Psychologist Carl Jung described a hidden part of personality known as the shadow. The shadow contains traits, desires, emotions, and impulses that we do not want to associate with ourselves. So we push them away. The angry person says, "I'm not angry." The jealous person says, "I don't care." The controlling person says, "I'm only trying to help." And this is where things become dangerous. Because rejecting your darker impulses does not necessarily remove them. Sometimes it makes them harder to recognize. The person who believes, "I could never manipulate anyone," may manipulate people without noticing it. The person who believes, "I am always kind," may use kindness to control how others see them. The person who believes, "I have no ego," may become obsessed with proving how humble they are. The shadow becomes most powerful when you are certain you do not have one. And this may explain why ordinary people can sometimes do surprisingly cruel things. Cruelty does not always begin with hatred. Sometimes it begins with justification. They deserved it. I had no choice. Everyone else was doing it. I was only protecting myself. Once the mind creates a good enough story, behavior that once seemed unacceptable can suddenly feel necessary. This is one of the most dangerous abilities of the human brain. We do not only make decisions, we explain our decisions to ourselves. And we are extremely good at making ourselves the hero of our own explanation. A person can lie and call it protection, control someone and call it love, humiliate someone and call it honesty, seek revenge and call it justice. The darker side of human psychology rarely walks into your mind saying, "I am evil." It usually arrives saying, "I am right." But there is another side to this. Your darker impulses are not always useless. Anger can tell you that a boundary has been crossed. Jealousy can reveal something you deeply want. Aggression can help you defend yourself. Self-interest can stop you from sacrificing your entire life for other people. Even the desire for power can become ambition, leadership, or discipline when it is handled consciously. The goal is not to destroy the shadow. The goal is to recognize it before it controls you. Think of two people. The first person says, "I would never hurt anyone." The second says, "I know I am capable of hurting people, so I need to be careful with my anger." Which person understands themselves better? Probably the second. Self-awareness is not believing you are harmless. It is knowing what you are capable of and choosing what you will do with it. Because almost everyone behaves well when life is easy. The real test appears when you are rejected. humiliated, betrayed, ignored, given power over someone weaker than you, or offered something you desperately want with almost no chance of getting caught. That is when your values stop being ideas. They become decisions. And this is why the psychological devil is not simply violence or cruelty. It is the voice that tells you consequences do not matter because your feelings matter more. It says, you were hurt, so hurt them back. You were ignored, so make them regret it. You have power, so use it. No one will know. And every time you obey that voice without questioning it, the next decision becomes slightly easier. Behavior creates identity. The first lie feels uncomfortable. The 10th feels normal. The first act of cruelty may produce guilt. Repeated cruelty can slowly produce justification instead. You do not suddenly wake up as a completely different person. You become that person one small permission at a time. But transformation can happen in the opposite direction too. You notice the impulse. You stop before reacting. You ask yourself, what am I actually trying to achieve? You admit, I want revenge right now. Or, I am jealous. Or, I want to control this person. That moment of honesty creates distance between you and the impulse. And in that distance, you regain choice. You do not have to obey every thought your mind produces. You do not have to become every emotion you feel. You can experience hatred without becoming hateful. You can feel jealousy without becoming destructive. You can imagine revenge without taking revenge. That may be one of the most important forms of psychological maturity. Not becoming someone who is no darkness, but becoming someone who can look directly at their darkness without allowing it to decide who they become. Because perhaps the most dangerous person is not the one who knows they have a devil inside them. It is the person who is completely convinced that they do not.